This video is on simplifying rational expressions. So we're going to simplify each of these expressions. Okay, I'm going to start with a simpler one and kind of explain the process, which will help with more complicated rational expressions. So here I have 12x to the 4th divided by 4x to the 6th. And I'm just going to write this out. This means 12 times x to the 4th is x times itself 4 times. Over 4 times x to the 6th is x times itself 6 times. So you might already know that you can just cancel out, and if you have x to the 4th on top and x to the 6th on bottom, 4 of the x's on top will cancel with 4 of the x's on bottom, meaning you'll be left with x to the 2nd on bottom. But I want to just go through it step by step. All right, I'm going to start with the 12 divided by 4. This gives us 3. Okay, so if you are multiplying items together, in this case I'm multiplying variables times a number. If they were being multiplied all together, there's no addition or subtraction. If you have something over itself, it cancels out to equal 1. So x divided by x is 1. X divided by x is 1. X divided by x is 1. And x divided by x is 1. So I have a 3 on top from 12 over 4. And on bottom, I'm left with x times x, which is x squared. Okay, yes, there's a simpler way. As I said before, 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 4 of the x's on top cancel with 4 of the x's on bottom. Meaning if you took away 4, you would have 2 x's left on bottom multiplied together, so it would be x squared. But I wanted you to remember the idea of anytime you have everything multiplied together, you can cancel the same thing on top and bottom. X over x equals 1. It's the same thing as 5 over 5 equals 1. The same is true if you have binomials multiplied together. Here I have x plus 3 times x minus 4. On bottom, x plus 1 times x plus 3. So in between the parentheses, my binomials, I would have multiplication. So if any of the binomials are identical, they would cancel with each other. So x plus 3 over x plus 3 reduces to 1. So they actually just cancel each other out, as long as it's multiplication in between. So this leaves me with x minus 4 over x plus 1, and that is simplified. Okay, so this one I need to first factor. Anytime something's not factored, I'm going to factor it. So x plus 2 minus 9, or x squared minus 9. I don't have an x term. That means it's x squared plus 0x minus 9. So when I factor this, you always look at what do you add together to equal the number multiplied by x, in this case 0, and what do you multiply together to equal the constant, the number by itself, which is -9. I know you've done it before, just reinforcing how you factor. So that means I have -3 and +3 is the only thing that's going to work. So I'm just going to factor out the top. So this would factor to x minus 3 times x plus 3. And on bottom, we have x plus 2 times x minus 3. It's already factored for us. Okay, so now, because our binomials are multiplied together, if there's any that are the same on top and bottom, they cancel out. X minus 3 over x minus 3 is 1. So this gives me x plus 3 over x plus 2 as a final answer. All right. Here on top, I can see that I can factor out 10. So if I factor 10 out, I'm left with x plus 2. Because 20 divided by 10 is 2. And on bottom, Okay, remember this negative x is a negative 1x. So I have to figure out what I add together to equal negative 1, what I multiply together to equal negative 6. So this one I have, let's see, negative 3 and positive 2 would work. So on bottom I have x minus 3 times x plus 2. Okay, what I have in common, I have an x plus 2 on top and bottom, so they cancel each other out. So that means this is 10 over x minus 3. Okay, so of course I'm going to get a little more complicated on the next one. Okay, x squared plus 3x minus 4 over x squared plus x minus 2, all multiplied by x squared minus 4 over x plus 4. So I'm going to start by just factoring everything. All right, figure out what I have to add together to equal 3, multiply together to equal negative 4. So this is 4 and negative 1. So x plus 4 times x minus 1. Then on bottom, I'm just going to move this down here so you can see where I'm doing the factoring. Okay, remember this is 1x. So what do I add together to equal 1 and multiply together to equal negative 2? That would be positive 2 and negative 1. So the bottom part factors to x plus 2 times x minus 1. All of this is multiplied by, all right, for this one I'm going to factor x squared plus 0x minus 4. If there's not a term in the middle, it means that x must have been multiplied by 0. So I just plug it in there so that I can see what do I add together to equal 0, multiply together to equal negative 4. That would be 2 and negative 2. So they have to be opposites to equal 0 when you add. So the top factors to x plus 2 times x minus 2. And on bottom we have x plus 4. If you want to put it in parentheses, you can. And because these are multiplied together, when you're multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So I can kind of just treat it like this. And anything that is the same on top and bottom cancels. We have x plus 4. Here's an x minus 1 over x minus 1. Here's an x plus 2 over x plus 2. All right, the x plus 2 was on top. Meaning I'm left with x minus 2. I don't need to put it in parentheses. Just going to box my answer. All right, let's try one more together. All right, division. Okay, so this one's not that complicated. I'm just going to start by factoring first because it's easier to just break it down. So, figure out what I have to add together to equal 4, multiply together to equal 3. This is 3 and 1. So this top quadratic is x plus 3 times x plus 1 over, on bottom I can see I can just factor out 2 because you can divide 2x and 4 both by 2. If I divide 2x by 2, I'm left with x, plus 4 divided by 2 is 2, divided by, all right, let me factor this one. What adds together to equal 2, multiplies together to equal negative 3. That is 3 and negative 1. So I have x plus 3 times x minus 1 over, on bottom I can see I can divide 6x and 12 both by 6. So I'm going to factor out 6. 6x divided by 6 is x, plus 12 divided by 6 is 2. All right, when you're dividing fractions, just think of it as a fraction right now. You do keep it, change it, flip it. So I'm going to keep my first fraction the same, x plus 3 times x plus 1 over 2 times x plus 2. change it, change division to multiplication, and flip it, flip your second fraction over. So on top is 6 times x plus 2, and on bottom, x plus 3 times x minus 1. All right, now, again, I'm multiplying, so I can kind of just go like this. Here I have x plus 3 divided by x plus 3 is 1. X plus 2 divided by x plus 2 is 1. So I'm left with on top a 6 times x plus 1, and on bottom I have 2 times x minus 1. All right, but 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'm going to leave it on top. Because, well, you can also divide top and bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 1 times anything. 1 times x minus 1 is just x minus 1. So 3's on top. 3 times x plus 1 over x minus 1 is my answer. All right, so I'm going to give you some problems just like those to try. Okay, so here are the first 5 problems, sorry. And when you're ready, I'll move it to the 6th problem, so go ahead and pause it here while you copy these problems down and work them out. Here is the 6th and final problem. Okay, so I'm going to go through the answers with you. All right, we can divide 18 and 8 both by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9, over 8 divided by 2 is 4. X to the 7th over x to the 3rd. Well, 3 of the x's on top cancel with 3 on the bottom, meaning we're left with x to the 4th. Or you can do 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, x minus 5 over x minus 5 is 1. So you have x plus 2 over x minus 3. So I'm going to go through this one a little quicker, so hopefully you've done all the factoring. All right, x squared minus 16. Okay, I know that this has to be, one has to be plus, one has to be minus. What's multiplied by itself to equal 16 is 4. And I know that one's plus, one's minus because there's not an x term in the middle. They canceled out. So that was my little shortcut. X plus 4 times x minus 1. My x plus 4's cancel out. So I'm left with x minus 4 over x minus 1. All right, this one, I can factor a 6 out to get x minus 1. And on bottom, okay, so I have to figure out what adds to equal negative 3, multiplies together to equal 2, which is negative 2 and negative 1. So my x minus 1's cancel out, and I'm left with 6 over x minus 2. Okay, so this one, all right, I'm going to factor what's on top. Okay, I have to figure out what multiplies together, adds together to equal 1, multiplies together to equal negative 6, which is positive 3 and negative 2. On bottom, I have x plus 6 times, again, I'm going to factor what's on top. I have to figure out what adds together to equal 7, multiplies together to equal 6, 6 and 1. They're both positive. On bottom, figure out what adds together to equal 4, multiplies together to equal 3, 3 and 1, both positive. All right, now I can just treat this as everything's multiplied together on top, everything's multiplied together on bottom. Right, I have an x plus 3 over x plus 3. Can't get rid of this one. I have an x plus 6 over x plus 6, x plus 1 over x plus 1. Leaves me with x minus 2 as an answer. And the final one, okay, I can factor out a 5, which leaves me with x minus 1. Okay, then I'm going to factor the bottom quadratic. What adds together to equal 5, multiplies together to equal 6 is 3 and 2. Divided by, I'm going to factor the top. All right, what adds together to equal 4, multiplies together to equal -5 is 5 and -1, positive 5 and -1. And the bottom quadratic adds together to equal 8, multiplies together to equal 15 is positive 5 and positive 3. But I have to do keep it, change it, flip it, because this is division. I'm going to change it to multiplication. 5 times x minus 1 over x plus 3 times x plus 2 times x plus 5 times x plus 3 over x plus 5 times x minus 1. I just flipped that. Okay, what can I eliminate? X minus 1 over x minus 1, x plus 5 over x plus 5, and x plus 3 over x plus 3, which gives me 5 on top and x plus 2 on the bottom. Hopefully you're able to get all of those.